Although I always suggest checking out a bunch of different tabletop RPGs from various companies and creators to add to your collection, as you know, Cypher's kind of my favorite system these days. So let's do a little series where I break down each of the books within it. And I'll only be covering the books I have physical copies of at the moment because I like to feel the quality as I go through it. I guess I'm a little old school that way. So let's start, of course, I'm with the core main thing, the Cypher system rulebook. Now, there are two versions of the rulebook, the original one that came out in 2015 and the revised version that came out in 2019. Aside from a few minor rules tweaks for the most part, the largest difference between them is organization and formatting. I own both copies, but in all my videos where I refer to the Cypher system rulebook or CSR, I am going to be referring to the 2019 revised version of it. Starting with layout and design, the book is very easy to read. It has a good sized font, it has decent sizing and spacing between the lines. It has that third column on each page that you see in a lot of Cypher books that's kind of great for notes and references and more. And as is true with basically any product from Monte Cook Games you put out, the art is gorgeous. They find some really massively talented artists for their products. This book is also organized into easy-to-read parts, with individual chapters in those parts. Although the first 3 chapters, which are like brief TLDR quick summaries of concepts and rules, are then expanded upon later in the book, they're actually before part 1, so I guess you could think of that as like a part 0, even though it's not labeled as such. That bit was kind of weird. Otherwise, the book is easily split into character information, the main rules, genre-specific info, game master-specific rules, options and info, and finally a part for extra stuff like copies of the sheets in the index. When it comes to layout, I can't say there'd be much better, and there are certainly far, far worse. I won't name names, but those that know me know which ones I criticize the most. I would also like to remind people that despite the company being called Monte Cook Games, there is a great collection of designers on the team, not just Monte Cook himself, but amazing people like Bruce Cordell, Sean K. Reynolds, and Shauna Germain. The Cypher system is what I refer to as a universal system, which means that the core rulebook options require I want to say versatile and wide range of options, some of which are generic to fit into any situation, and some of which are a little more specific to slot into certain themes or genres. Although the book does give some great tips on how to flavor or reflavor options across into unexpected genres as need be. You mentioned something about asking me about Cypher. What was it that you wanted to know?
I guess like what's your take on the rather? Is there a reason why you prefer the reduced amount of what looks to me from the outside looking in, and just at a cursory glance I've given the system, what seems to me as a reduced amount of character expression in that system compared to D&D?
Sorry, Taryn, love you to death, but how wrong you were back then. Let's see why. One thing that stands out in Cypher compared to most RPGs I've played is the way you build your character options onto your character sheet. Cypher is all about that personalized customization. You start out with a character sentence where you're filling in the blanks with options from the book. The default sentence is, name is a descriptor type, who focus, which already feels customizable, and you can stop there if you're the type that would get choice paralysis with too many options, which is kind of a thoughtful stopping point. However, if you're like me, and most of my group, you have only just begun to customize, as the system allows you to add a flavor to your character sentence, basically adding more abilities to choose from. Oh, but wait, there's more. The book also encourages talking with your GM to swap in specific abilities from the master list if it would make sense for your character concept. You can tell that this is intended because a percentage of the abilities listed in the book are not actually part of any prearranged list for a type or focus or anything. They're free-floating orphaned abilities that are just waiting to be handpicked. Despite a page count around the 450 mark or approaching the 450 mark, the actual core rules of the system only take up about, say, around 30 pages of that, some of which are just explanations and examples. The primary rules of the system are fairly straightforward and light, with room to expand upon using them with modular rule sets given by both Monte Cook Games and a diverse third-party development scene, like me. The book then has a section on some default genre setups. This includes what foci are the most compatible, what sort of options or equipment you may want to include, as well as some basic tips on how to reflavor things for that genre and work it into your campaign, the game of Cypher. Although useful, there's only so much you can fit in without the page count of the book exploding, which is why the genre-specific white books exists, something we'll touch upon in the future videos about each of these. The rest of the book is primarily stuff for the GM, from stat blocks to the all-important ciphers to tips and additional rules for running the system. In this last section, there's a lot of great information that's very much worth a read. All in all, this is a very solid book. And with this book alone, not even needing any of the expansion books, I could very easily play with just about any genre or mix of genres that I could think of. And if you're still not sure if this is the right RPG system for you, you do have a few great choices to try it out. Aside from watching my actual plays on my channel, which I highly suggest, you have the choice of the Cypher Unlimited community to help guide you through it. You can check out basically all of the rules for free with the Old Gus SRD website, since all of the rules are available for open use. And if you still want a traditional book format and don't mind PDFs, it's only like $22 on DriveThruRPG normally, never mind with the occasional sales. I've seen it as low as like $10 or $11 for like a 450 page book. Considering how quickly the system and community is growing, not a bad idea to get in on it now.